Imagine this. You are floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There is no land in sight, no ships, no planes, just endless blue water stretching to every horizon. Your boat is the size of an SUV. Your engine is dead. Your radio is dead. Your GPS is dead. You have no food, no fresh water, no way to call for help, and you are completely alone. This is the story of José Salvador Alvarenga, a fisherman who survived 438 days adrift at sea, longer than anyone in recorded history. Today, we are going to answer one question. How did one man survive 14 months alone in the ocean? And what does his story teach us about the limits of human endurance? Let's start at the beginning. On November 17, 2012, Alvarenga and his young crewmate, 22-year-old Ezequiel Cordoba, set out from the coast of Mexico for what was supposed to be a 30-hour fishing trip. Alvarenga was 36 years old, an experienced fisherman who'd spent his life on the ocean. Cordoba was a rookie, a village soccer player who had only been out to sea a handful of times. Their boat was a 25-foot fiberglass skiff, about the size of 2 pickup trucks parked end to end. It had a refrigerator-sized icebox for storing fish, a 2-way radio, a GPS, and 70 gallons of gasoline. They planned to catch sharks, tuna, and marlin, return to shore, and sell their catch for Christmas money. But then the weather changed. A violent storm front slammed into them from the northeast. Waves grew to 5 meters high. Winds reached over 100 kilometers per hour. The two men battled the storm for days, bailing water with their hands and buckets, desperately trying to keep their boat from sinking. And then the engine died, the radio died, the GPS died. Alvarenga made one last desperate call to his boss on shore. "Come now! I am really getting fucked out here!" he shouted. Those were his final words to civilization. Then the radio went silent. For the next 438 days, Alvarenga and Cordoba drifted westward across the Pacific Ocean. They had almost nothing, no food, no water, no way to navigate. Their boat had been stripped of nearly everything useful during the storm. What remained was a wooden plank, a fishing knife with a cracked handle, a machete, a pile of bleach bottles, and a red onion. That was it. The first challenge was thirst. Without fresh water, a human can die in 3 days. But the two men were lucky. They began collecting rainwater in the plastic bottles and an empty oil drum they found floating in the ocean. When it didn't rain, they drank their own urine. Alvarenga later described his tongue swelling so large he couldn't even speak, but somehow they survived the thirst. The second challenge was hunger. Alvarenga was a master hunter, and he put every skill he had to use. He kneeled at the edge of the boat and shoved his arms into the water up to his shoulders. When a small triggerfish swam between his hands, he smashed them shut, digging his fingernails into the rough scales. Soon he could catch 30 fish in a single session. They ate the fish raw, slicing the flesh into strips and drying them in the sun. When the fish ran out, Alvarenga started catching seabirds. He would lie perfectly still on the deck of the boat, waiting for a bird to land on the edge. When it settled down and started preening its feathers, he would slowly reach up, grab it by the leg, and snap its neck. He would then break its wings so it couldn't fly away, keeping a supply of live birds on the boat for future meals. They ate the birds raw. Alvarenga would pop a chunk of raw bird meat into his mouth and chew with gusto. But Cordoba couldn't stomach it. The smell of the raw seabird meat made him gag. He would sniff it and become violently ill. Alvarenga tried everything to get him to eat. He would cut the meat into small pieces and feed it to him like a baby, but Cordoba refused. He stopped eating altogether. After about 4 months at sea, Cordoba died in Alvarenga's arms. Now Alvarenga was truly alone.
This is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Alvarenga had to survive not just the physical challenges, the hunger, the thirst, the burning sun, but also the psychological nightmare of complete isolation. He had already watched his friend die. Now he was alone on a tiny boat in the middle of the largest ocean on Earth. He kept Cordoba's body on the boat for 6 days, talking to it, carrying on both sides of the conversation. He would ask the dead man what death was like, and then answer as if Cordoba was speaking back to him. But eventually, the hallucinations became too intense. Alvarenga felt like he was losing his mind, so he buried his friend at sea. Now he was completely alone. To survive, Alvarenga developed a routine. He would spend his days hunting for food, collecting rainwater, and scanning the horizon for ships. He ate raw fish, turtles, seabirds, and even jellyfish, swallowing them whole despite the stings on his hands and throat. He drank turtle blood, which he found gave him energy. He ate his own fingernails. He even chewed on driftwood. To protect himself from the sun, he flipped the icebox upside down and huddled inside it during the hottest part of the day. His body adapted to the conditions. His skin became thick and leathery. His joints stiffened from being curled up in the cramped space. He later suffered slipped vertebrae from spending so long in those unnatural positions. But he kept going.
Alvarenga's survival strategy wasn't just physical, it was mental. He invented an entire alternate reality to keep himself sane. He would imagine he was walking on the beach, talking to friends, eating delicious meals. He would pretend he was sitting in a restaurant ordering food or flirting with women he used to know. He later said that the best meals of his life were those imaginary meals he had at sea, and the best sex was the imaginary sex. He also made friends with the animals that shared his tiny world. He adopted one of the seabirds, named it Poncho, and fed it special meals. He even made a pet out of a pufferfish, using it as a soccer ball to play imaginary matches with his captured seabirds. He named one of the birds Cristiano Ronaldo. These small acts of imagination and humor kept him from giving up. As one expert later explained, people who survive extreme situations often do so because they find a reason to care for something else. Alvarenga was taking care of Poncho, taking care of his imaginary friends, and in doing so, he was taking care of himself. But Alvarenga also endured moments of crushing despair. On one occasion, after drifting for 7 months, he spotted a large container ship on the horizon. He tore off his shirt and waved it frantically, screaming for help. The crew on the ship saw him. They waved back, and then kept sailing. Alvarenga was devastated. "Come back, you fools! You stupid cowards!" he bellowed. He sank to his knees, hammered on the hull with his fists, and wept. That moment almost broke him. He later wondered how the crew of that ship could live with themselves. But he didn't give up. He kept drifting, kept hunting, kept surviving. On the 438th day, he spotted a small island on the horizon. At first, he thought it was another hallucination, but this time it was real. He had washed ashore on Eben Atoll, the southernmost tip of the Marshall Islands, almost 7,000 miles from where he had started. He staggered onto the beach, so weak he could barely walk. His beard was matted, his ankles were swollen, and he was severely dehydrated. The islanders who found him were shocked. They gave him water and shelter. After a few hours, he began to talk and laugh. "The more I talked, the more we all roared with laughter," he later said. "I am not sure why they were laughing. I was laughing at being saved." So, what made Alvarenga survive when almost anyone else would have died? The answer is a combination of skill, luck, and pure mental toughness. He was an expert fisherman with decades of experience on the ocean. He knew how to catch fish with his bare hands, how to trap birds, and how to survive without modern technology. He was physically resilient, able to endure extreme hunger, thirst, and sun exposure. His body adapted to the harsh conditions, surviving on a diet of raw fish, turtle blood, and seabirds. He was psychologically tough. He created an alternate reality to keep himself from going insane.
He found reasons to keep going, even when all hope seemed lost. And he was lucky. He drifted in the right currents. He found enough rain to survive. He washed ashore on an inhabited island instead of drifting another 3,000 miles to the Philippines. As one expert said, he was extremely unlucky and terribly fortunate at the same time. But perhaps the most important factor was Alvarenga's refusal to give up. He never lost hope, even when he was totally alone, even when he watched his friend die, even when a ship sailed past him and left him behind. He kept fighting, he kept surviving, and in the end, he made it. If this video made you appreciate the power of the human spirit, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were stranded alone in the ocean? I'll read the best answers. Alvarenga survived 438 days, but his story teaches us something that applies to all of us. No matter how bad things get, never give up. See you in the next video.